baggage, but it had my tie and all my notes in it. I'll move to that again. It's a pleasure that you came out. I know that you've had some terrible weather and some tragedy this week, and I'm sure you've probably already made some kind of notice of that, but I feel the difference. Now, what can I say to you about the strangest place on the planet, Washington, D.C.? It gets stranger. I understand that after 3 years, the President of the United States has finally issued his own birth certificate. I never doubted that the President of the United States was born in Hawaii. In fact, even if he had not been, I never doubted that he wasn't eligible to be president. I happen to have been born overseas myself. I'm eligible to be president, although that's not likely to happen, and I'm not announcing. So I never doubted that the President wasn't born in Hawaii. I just wondered what planet he was from, and what policies he was pursuing. And I think that that's the most interesting thing that we've seen since the midterm elections. You know, the President has an economy that is stagnant, unemployment that is stuck at 8.8%. Inflation, have anyone bought groceries lately? Milk, lettuce, not to mention gasoline. The President has an economy that's stuck the way that it is, I think, in large part because of uncertainty, economic uncertainty. And when you have economic uncertainty, people tend to put their money on the sidelines, especially people who create jobs. We right now have $2 trillion of capital sitting on the sidelines, not as productively employed as it should be. And the reason is, if you had money, would you invest it in this climate? We don't know exactly how much Obamacare is going to whack small business and whether or not people are going to be able to keep the one-year insurance plans that they have for their workers. We have the EPA regulations. They couldn't get cap and trade through Congress, so they're trying to do it through the back door of the Environmental Protection Agency. You have all of the regulations that are coming down. I mean, we now have the National Labor Relations Board suing Boeing for daring to open a second production facility in South Carolina simply because it costs less and there's less labor disruption there. Thank you. This is astonishing. It's right out of the movie Atlas Shrugged, which is playing in theaters nearby and probably will be reaching Little Rock soon enough. It's by the way, it's a chilling film. So that is one of the reasons why this economy is so stagnant. Now, while President Obama has created all this uncertainty, he's also created a debt bomb. The debt bomb is growing. He has added $10 to $15 trillion in debt just in the last 2.5 years. Of course, previous presidents contributed to that debt load. President Obama has decided it's like a poker player. Sure, I'll raise you that much more than what you put on the table. Now, we've already had warnings about what this means to us. This is trouble. And then this past week, the International Monetary Fund came out and has updated its prediction, and it says that by 2016, China may be the world's largest economy. Now, the good news is the International Monetary Fund is wrong on everything. It has been wrong on everything. So, in a sort of perverse way, I think we have a lot more time than we thought, because they're the ones making the prediction. But still, they're looking at trends. They're looking at our economy stagnant, and it doesn't take more than a few years of a stagnant economy for fast-growing countries that have far less labor and environmental and other restrictions to catch up with us. I was recently in India, and that is an exciting story for the Indians and a cautionary story for us. So, how did this happen? Well, I can tell you how it happened because we've been through this before. And the good news is, twice before we've been through this, we've come out okay. Because the one thing about Americans, Winston Churchill put it best, Americans, he said, will often do the wrong thing until they've exhausted all their possibilities. And that's what I believe. I believe Americans, ordinary people, can rise and do extraordinary things when they're called upon, and when they recognize that not only is their future, the future of their children, their grandchildren at stake, but so too is the very future of the country that was handed down to us by our founding fathers. We've been through this twice before, I said. Yes, some of you may be old enough to remember it. In 1976, in the wake of the Watergate scandals, Jimmy Carter got narrowly elected. And it's interesting because in the spring of 1977, Ronald Reagan gave a speech to his former staffers in the 76 primary campaign. He had run against Gerald Ford, lost very narrowly at the convention in Kansas City. And he gave a wonderful speech to the delegates in endorsing Ford, a speech that was so wonderful that 4 delegates throughout the hall looked at each other and said, "We just elected the wrong man." In the spring of 1977, Reagan had a reunion of his aides and staffers from that campaign. And they were very dour, they were very down, they were very pessimistic. And Reagan said, "No, we must be of good cheer." He quoted the Scottish poet Dryden, who once wrote, "Oh, for I am beaten, but I am not slain. Let me lay down and bleed a while, and then I shall rise and fight again." And then Reagan explained why they should be optimistic. He said, "Look, 2 or 3 things always have to happen at the same time for us to suffer defeat this bad." He says, "First, we have to have elected leaders from our party or our movement who ultimately betray our principles, do not live up to the standards that we wish, and ultimately adopt policies of the other party, not ours." That just happened, and his name is Richard Nixon. I don't even have to remind you about wishing Christ controls as well as part of it. Then he said the second thing that has to happen is the liberals have to be smart enough to run an appealing candidate who can pretend that he will govern from the center and not let the extremists. And we just saw that in Jimmy Carter, former Southern governor. I'll never lie to you. But Reagan said, "But mark my words, even when those 2 things happen, a third thing must happen. They can't govern from the center." Even if Jimmy Carter, he said, wanted to govern from the center, his congressional leadership, which was that time was Tip O'Neill and Robert Byrd. Remember Robert Byrd, the man who paved over half of West Virginia, named it after himself. Even if he wanted to govern from the center, his congressional leadership and the people who pay the bills of the Democratic Party, the unions, wouldn't let him. They wouldn't let him. Mark my words, Jimmy Carter will govern from the left. And then Reagan said, if he governs from